I'm going to duplicate this layer by dragging it down to the plus sign at the bottom here. And there it goes. Once I have that, I can add a mask to it to isolate part of the image. So I'm just going to click right down here at the bottom. There's this rectangle with the circle cut out of it. Just add layer mask. And this I'm going to use to select part of my image to isolate it. So I'm just going to go to color range here under properties. If you don't see properties, you can go to Windows and make sure that that's checked. That should pop up. I'm just going to go to color range. And I can select either in the image itself or in this little preview panel right here. So I'm just going to select the red part of this. And I want to keep adding to it because I want to get most of the flower in there. So I can either hold down the Shift key, and you'll see the cursor will change to a little plus sign with the eyedropper, or I can just use the plus sign here. And I can just keep adding that. I don't need to use the Shift key then. But it's just a quick key to use. So once I've got most of it, you see it's even picking up a little bit of this red flower here. I just don't want to make sure that I don't get too much of outside of the flower. So I'm just going to keep selecting, adding in these darker parts. Pretty good. So I've got most of the flower selected, and if I want to kind of play around with it, I can use this localized color clusters, and then I can increase or decrease the fuzziness to see what that does. So you can see I'm starting to get, if I kind of increase that fuzziness, it's kind of bringing in some of that background, which I don't want to do. I kind of like the way it came out without the localized color, so I'm going to uncheck that. Just go back to the selection that I had. I've got a pretty decent selection of the flower. Some of these dark spots maybe not coming out 100%, but pretty good. There. I can just kind of select in there to grab most of it. So once I have that selected, I can go ahead and hit OK. What I really want to do is act on the rest of the image instead of this red. I want to isolate the red. So I'm going to flip this, and to do that I just need to click invert. And you'll see this mask kind of just change. So now the white parts are going to be what's going to be affected by this next thing that I do. The black part is going to be hidden or not be used. So I'm just going to go to make sure I've got the layer selected. So I don't need this selected anymore. I need to actually select the layer, and it's going to use the mask. I'm just going to go to Image, Adjustments, and Black and White. And right away it's going to flip that color to black and white. Whatever that rest of the stuff we had selected, it's going to leave the masked out version, masked out part alone. And I can play around with this just to kind of adjust those colors. I want to just kind of see what that does here. Just to do that color splash to kind of keep that, isolate that color. And I can just play around with some of these values to see what that does. You can see it's kind of bringing in some of that. If I tweak that too much, I'm just going to leave that alone. I can even change the tint. Wanted I'd like more of a sepia tone here, I can just click on the color of the tint, and you can see what that'll do as well. So just going to overall apply this color to it. And I could play around with the hue and saturation of that value as well. So kind of like that. I'm just going to go ahead and hit OK. So now that we've got this layer on top and the background, the original, still there, I can play around with how the effect that we've done, if I kind of overdo it, I can kind of dial it back a lot easier now just by kind of lowering my opacity, because I can always go back to the original. So if I just want, say, 50% of the effect in there. So it's subtle, but if I click back, you can see what the original looks like versus this one. So it's just a nice way of having this change that I can kind of dial in or dial down the effect of it without losing what the original was. And I can always go back to the original because I have this down here that I haven't done anything to.